Alright, hello class. I've gotten a request for making a video about fully defining a part, and so I'm going to just walk through what my process looks like for any given sketch. And so I'm going to be walking through one of the parts we'll do in the later half of the course. This one, part 15, page 88 of your book, on which we'll get to in week 11. What I'll be doing is I'll be sketching the top view. I won't be doing any extrusions, but I'm just going to draw the view and then walk through what I would do to fully define this part. Okay, so new part file, hit the new button, hit a part file. Open up the file. All right. And so looking at it again, what I see is some circles in the middle, some two lines coming out of the circle, and then I see two slots, one up here, one down there, and then I'll do a circular pattern with the circles to place them around evenly. Okay, so let's make a sketch on the top plane, and so I'll put it out here for now. So again, let's maybe put it side by side. Let me not expose my desktop. Oh, whatever. All right. So once again, we have two circles, two slots. So I use the circle tool to plot down two circles that have the same center point. I'm plopping down a center point arc slot because these two slots, the whole curve of the middle line going through shares a center point with the center of the whole sketch. So center point slot, I click first in the center, then I want to click straight out to the left, but I'll do it a little bit off because we're doing a demonstration on defining the feature. So I'll do one out there, do one out here, and cool. Okay, then we have, what do we have next? We'll put the circles on later with a circular pattern. I might as well put this circle right here, the construction circle. And so to do that, I'm going to plop down just any circle and then check the for construction box. And then I need the lines, which will go from my center circle over, I don't want it to snap. Why does this keep popping up? Alright. So, auto show. Alright, sorry. From the center circle, not snapping. So maybe if I zoom in, maybe if I do it from there. Boop. Line tool, second line. Line tool, second line. There we go. Alright, there's our very ugly shape. So let's see, what do we need to do? So let's start adding dimensions and relations. we'll add dimensions first so that it's like roughly the same size of the object. And so we'll start with the biggest one, which will make, I see this is, oh wow, almost right there, 120 millimeters. The inner radius here, let's see. I'll be constraining the slot to the circle, so I don't have to put in a lot of those dimensions. I do need this dimension to make this 15. I need to define this inner circle as 30. This outer circle is 50 millimeters. And then the distance from this line to this line going sideways can't be done yet, so I'll leave that for later. Okay. So I have this drawing and I can move it around, and what we're trying to do with dimensions relations to be fully defined is prevent it from moving around at all. So anything that's blue lets you move it around, and anything that's black is rigid and locked into place. Our only main rule is that we can never use this fixed relation, never use it, because what it does is it just locks it in place automatically, whereas we want to be locking the drawing in based on other features in the drawing or on known measurements. So what I'm going to do first is I need to get anything to be well defined, I need to lock it to the actual drawing space itself. And so the items that I have to do that are the front plane, the top plane, the right plane, and the origin, which comes with every part. 9 times out of 10, I'll be trying and locking my part to the origin. And by that, I mean I need to pick a single point on my drawing and make that coincident with the origin, so that that single point that I pick, no matter what, cannot move from the origin. And so for me, I will always, in this case, I usually want to pick something that's central to the drawing. And so this drawing in particular has a nice center point for the whole sketch itself. And so I'm going to try and make this point coincident with the origin. Before I do that, a good tip that I like to do is I like to test that the relation is possible by physically selecting the whole drawing, by holding down left click, highlighting my whole part or my whole sketch, and then clicking and dragging. So I'm trying to move that crosshair right in the middle, right to the left of my cursor, right over these 2 arrows, the origin of the drawing. And so if I can move that physically, manually over the point, then I know I'm in a good spot to add that relation. So I was able to overlap them, so that's a good sign. And so I'll move it kind of close, and then I'll control click on my center point. I'm holding down control and clicking on the origin, and then I hit the coincident relation here on the left to snap them together. You can see, because I've already defined the diameter for the inner circle and the outer circle, that these turn from blue to black, and now they can't be moved. If I delete one of the dimensions, then, and I was like, why is this blue? If I try and move it, it stretches, it shrinks, but it doesn't move. And that tells me that the diameter is not well defined, and so I have to add a diameter dimension. Alright, so now we're here. Now we have the circle locked in, we don't have the slots locked in, we don't have the lines locked in. So whenever I'm trying to figure out why it's blue, I can either look at the part itself, like the main part of the object. So in this case, it's the line. Over here, it's the arc, and see how that moves. But also I can look at the endpoints, like how does this endpoint move? So it looks like this endpoint can go up and down without moving the other endpoint. But for me, if I look at the drawing, what I want is a horizontal line. So for this line, I'm going to pick it, make it horizontal, And now if I try to move this point, the other point moves with it, and it's a little bit more constricted in a way that I feel is closer to the drawing. Same with here, being able to move one without the other makes the line more crooked or less crooked when I want it to be flat. So if I make it flat with a horizontal relation by clicking on it, click on horizontal relation, now they move together, but at least I can get it closer to the shape of my part. Let's do that for the other side. It looks like Solidworks accidentally added, or accidentally, without me specifically setting it, just from how I put the lines down, I've added a parallel relation and a coincident relation that I didn't intend to be there. So you just have to watch out when you're creating parts that SolidWorks may accidentally snap things and add relations you don't intend for. So for the case of this demonstration, I'm going to delete those with, I can either right click on the box and hit delete, or I can click on it and hit the delete key on my keyboard. I'll add that to future videos. Okay. So just as well, I want to make this horizontal, and I want to make this horizontal. All right. So now that they're horizontal, I can add this relation that defines the distance between the two lines horizontally. Did I say really? Add this dimension. So I'm going to go to my Smart Dimension tool, click on the top, click on the bottom, and then move it over to the right, and we can see that it's supposed to be 30 millimeters. So now the question is, how do these lines move? Well, they can either both move up or they can both move down, but no matter what, because of the dimension I just added, they have to be 30 millimeters apart. So if I move it down like this, what do I notice versus the drawing? Well, it looks like if I drew a line straight through the center of the drawing horizontally, that the two lines are equidistant from that center line. And so that tells me that I want to add a symmetry relation, because right now it's askew. So right now the distance from here to there is much shorter than from here to there when they should be equidistant. And so in order to fix that, so I found that out because I can move it and I can see that one distance from the center line shrinks and one grows. So to fix that, I can click on the two lines and the center line, add a symmetry relation to now it's locked in, and now it can't move up or down, and now it's equidistant from the center line. And the center line went through the origin, just by the way I drew the line, having it go through the origin itself added the coincident, locking the center line into the middle. But you can see the endpoints are blue, so even though the center line is blue, I can still move, stretch, and shrink the center line itself. I need to make this other side line up with this, and so if I see how this moves, this can move on its own. I can either do the same thing, make it symmetric with this side, or I can relate it from this line to the other side with a collinear relation to have them be on the same line, and I can do that with the other side as well, because this one, if I was looking at it, this moves, but the endpoint doesn't, moving the endpoint moves the whole line, it can stretch and shrink. So right now, all I'm focusing on is making it lined up with the other side and with a collinear relation. This point here needs to be intersecting with this slot. So I'm going to click on one, click on the other, and make them coincident. Okay, so now we're on the last part, the slots. Well, second last because we need the circles as well. So the slot over here can stretch and shrink this outer radius, so we need to well define that. It looks like the slot itself is the same size as the other side, but maybe we can work with the dimension that we definitely have, which is that the outer radius is 75 millimeters. Do we have the inner radius? No, but it's matching the other side. So I think we can assume that these two slots are equal sized. So with that in mind, I'm going to match this arc size to this arc size with an equal relation, or I can add a 15mm dimension as well. Both will be fine. It looks like doing that snapped it to the circle, so let's add this dimension down here, the 75. Or you can add the inner dimension, the 45, which is right here. Both will work. Because mathematically, if I have a 45mm inner diameter plus the 15mm radius, then the outside has to be 75 radius, as well as the middle line has to be at 120 diameter or 60 radius. Okay, so I thought I added a coincident relation, maybe I didn't. So let's lock this back into the point with coincident. And now this line can stretch and shrink that curve. I accidentally snapped it, so I'm going to hit Control Z to undo. So yeah, the next question is this arc. It can move up and down. Where should it be? Well, if I look at my drawing, I want the bottom of this arc to be lined up with this line over here. And so I can do that. So if I zoom in really close, one way I can do it is by going from a line into the curve. It looks like a smooth transition to me, so perhaps I can make a tangent. Or the other way is I can line up the line itself with the bottommost point of this arc. So let's try the first way for this left side, and I'll try the second way for the right side. So if I click on both of these and I make a tangent, now it's locked in this bottom arc, and it is a smooth transition from the straight line into the curve, much like it is over here. Or the other way, I'm going to drag this arc down so it's close to where I want it to snap. It looks like there's something constraining this point, so if I add a relation now, it's going to break it. So let's click on the point. So it's coincident with this arc when I need it to be coincident with this arc. So we're going to highlighting this. So breaking it down, I want this point to be over here because it's supposed to line up with this part of the drawing over here. But if I try and physically move it, it's locked in, and so something's preventing it from doing that. I click on it, and I can look over here to see what relations apply to it. It's this green box, coincident, and it's keeping this point on this inner arc when I don't want it to be. And so I click on that relation, I can right click, and I can hit delete. And instead, I want this point to be coincident with the outside arc, and so I'm going to click those two with Control click, hit coincident, and now it's closer to what I want. So that's almost what I want. I just need to hit, it needs to go on, if I hover over the arc, it brings up the midpoint, and so if I Control click on that, and on the point that I want it to lock to it, and over here I've accidentally selected the arc itself, so I can delete that from selected entities over here. So now I've only selected 2 points. They're highlighted in light blue. I can hit coincident and lock together, and that locks down that part of the arc. Now I need to lock down the bottom and the top arc, and to me it looks like the center point of the top arc should be directly above the center point of the circle, and same down below. Just looking at the sketch. That's reinforced by the dimension over here that says that circle to circle is 45 degrees, which means that this circle to that circle will be 45 plus 45, or 90 degrees. And so 90 degrees would look like going straight left and then going straight up. So the right angle from this circle to that circle. All right. So let's see. So I want to make this point here and this point here straight up and down. Let's see, we'll try that again. Control, hold down control, click on one point, click on the other point, unclick the slot. I think I'm in the tool, so I'm hitting escape a bunch, so I'm in a clear space. Nope. Okay. How do I only select the center point? Maybe I can't. Okay, well, what else can we do? Well, if we plop down the circle, because there's a circle here on this center point, maybe that would let us snap it. So I'm going to put a circle right on the center point. And then click on the circle, click on the center point. Now can I click on... Let's see, what else can be done? The last thing I could do, since that's not working with the relations, is I can add the angle dimension that I talked about earlier. So clicking on one point, then the second point, then the third point, the middle of the arc, I can define this as 45. And that has locked in, because from here to here has to have the same angle as from here to there, adding this angle right here, locked in the upper arc. So trial and error to see what's available to you. I believe I should have been able to select this point, but that's all right. It's good exercise in troubleshooting. So I'm going to add that same dimension on this bottom side. So I click on 1, 2, 3 points. That lets me add an angle dimension to lock in the bottom. This circle is still blue, so how does this move? It can grow and shrink. If I click on the center point, the center point can't move, so it just needs a diameter dimension of 15. And then I want to copy this total 6 times, but then since it's 45 degrees, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 places that it would be copy pasted, and I'll turn off the one over here and the one down there. So if I go to circular sketch pattern, the first box is the center point of where I'm copying it around. I don't want slot 1 to be copied, which showed up in the preview. I just want the circle to be copied. So right now it's being copied in 4 places. I'll increase the number of instances until it lines up with where I want it to be, like so. And then I'll click on instances to skip and turn off this circle here and this circle there. And now that looks pretty close to what I want for my drawing, and so I hit OK. Now these circles are blue, so the question is, how do these move? So if I click and I drag it, I can see it expands. And also I see that star in the center of all of 6 of these circles is also moving. So for me, that star is what I want to lock down. So I'm going to move it askew so that I can easily click on it better. So this guy right here, if I click and drag it, it moves all 6 circles. I need to line that up with the center point of the drawing. And so I control click on both of those, make it coincident, and now everything is fully defined as it says down here. And so to recap the process for Fully defining something is you have to see how does it move by clicking and dragging. You can click and drag on the whole object itself. You can click on drag on some of the endpoints. Just the question is, how does it move? And you have to reason out what would place it relation or dimension wise to where I need it to be. So I removed the 75mm dimension, but just as easily I could lock in this center line to this center line by making them co-radial, and that would also lock it in. So multiple ways to do the same definition. Just as well I could, let's see, just as well instead of the 75, I could define this middle line as a 60mm radius. That would also lock it in. Okay, so hopefully this helps with figuring out the process for any sketch. Thank you for watching.